Yeah.
to make something that's high-end accessible. Like,
I love that.
yeah,
I love that. High-end accessible is an awesome,
it should be the
awesome.
way. There's a really good Burberry marketing campaign right now that has Olivia Colman in it. And if you haven't seen it, like, look it up on YouTube. It's glorious. It's Olivia Colman, the actress, and she's working in a chip shop in the UK, and she's serving up fish and chips to people, and every single person that comes in is, like, head to toe Burberry. And it's that idea of, like, luxury should be for every day. You
Yes.
know, uh, this life is so short. It's a
Yep.
Tuesday, open that $100 bottle of wine and really enjoy it, instead of stashing it away in your cellar for a decade where, it might be too late when you open it. And now you've made that
Yeah.
investment of money and time, and then it's gone and you don't get to,
Yeah.
really enjoy it. And it's like, open it on a Tuesday.
Welcome, everybody, back to the Barrels and Roots podcast. My name is Sean, and I am your host today. And I have an awesome guest with me. Would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Brooke Delmas Robertson. My family owns and operates Delmas and SJR Vineyard in the Rocks District of Milton-Freewater, which is the first and currently only nested AVA in the Walla Walla Valley. So we are a Pacific Northwest appellation. And we have 10 acres of vineyard where we grow Rhône varieties. And we make about 5 different wines and are like a Mighty Mouse level producer. We're very small, but we do great things. So that's who we are.
That's awesome. I loved Mighty Mouse, by
Right?
the way, back in the
Yeah,
day. That
exactly.
such a great cartoon. It was so good. And it's like I think that we need more Mighty Mouse out there
We
because
do.
one of the things too,
Yeah.
I'm gonna tap on Mighty Mouse for a second and lean in on this topic because I think that so often we see people who want to go big.
Yeah.
Go big or go home. Go big or go home. And like sometimes there was this one restaurant that I had. Now, I split my time between California and Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And there's this one restaurant that I remember that was 20 years ago. This place was tiny. And the crazy part is that in the day, it wasn't a restaurant. It was like a mechanic shop. Like people would
Yeah.
get their bikes
Yeah.
fixed there. And so I was like, I was like, man, I need to go get that food. And I went out and it was like 2 p.m. and I get there and I was like, why is there a mechanic here? And why is no one serving that delicious food that I love?
Mhm.
But I found out that like actually that the place only came out at night and they would spend most of the day prepping for that day,
Yeah.
the food. And one of the things that was interesting is their pho, their Vietnamese noodle soup, was hands down the best I've had in the whole city, and it was so good. It was just so ridiculous good. I would go in there and I'd eat like 2 bowls, and I'd just go home being like, "Dude, I'm done. I don't know.
Right.
I am content right now. I don't need
Life
anything else today."
altering. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things is they started to get famous, and so they opened up another spot, and they opened up a 3rd spot and a 4th spot, and I don't know what it was, but they had a hard time, and not everyone does this, but they had a hard time starting to scale.
Mhm.
The food, the flavors changed, the vibe
Right.
changed, and when they had 1,000 people coming through their doors a day, it was inherently different from when they had 100.
Absolutely.
And so there's something to be said for everyone wants to scale. I want to scale this, get it big, and then sell. And at sometimes though, even my last guest was like, we need to find the people that are just in it for the craft, in it for the love, in it for the passion.
For sure. For sure. And so much of our industry, I think it's so much of any industry, quite frankly, is like if you're not growing, you're dying. Right. And
Yeah.
I think that level of capitalism has gotten us a bit in trouble because now in the wine industry specifically, we have such a glut of wines, of producers of brands. There's too much out there for the consumer to really understand, like, what is quality. If I'm going out there and I'm gonna
Yeah.
spend my limited amount of money that I have on a luxury product, it better be good, and there's so much out there that's, you know, all about branding, and we are craft, and we are family, and we are sense of place, and blah, blah, blah. All of those, hype words that we all love to use so much, but very few people actually are. And
Yeah.
when you look at it and you see, family owned and operated, but the case production is like a million cases. I mean, like, it started out that way for sure, and those people are absolutely still in control of those brands, but you cannot possibly be in touch with every single aspect of growing your fruit, making your wine, bottling, all of the steps that go into truly making something extraordinary. Whereas if you're small and you don't have any staff, you're forced to be a part of absolutely every single operation that happens for your brand. From, seeding the cover crop of the vineyard, making the pruning decisions, to what oak are we using and when are we going to bottle. So I think that I totally agree with you that, keeping that Mighty Mouse mentality and staying small and true, really, to what it is that you're trying to create and put out in the world is so important, especially now when there's, like, too much out there. So,
I have a media company, and I do this for people.
yeah,
I help people make podcasts, reels, videos, and everyone was talking to me, "How can you scale? Scale to the point where you can sell." I'm like, "I don't wanna sell my company.
yeah,
I wanna be making media for me. I want this to evolve and
mhm,
morph into, like, I'm eventually, like, in 5 years, I don't wanna do any client work.
yeah,
I want all of my internal stuff to be what's, driving the revenue streams, and then I have a small staff that is all really, really good at what we do, and if someone does want me to do more client work, then it's really good. Or maybe I have a client arm and we just have a limited number of people and we make really quality stuff.
yeah,
Or it's people I just want to work with. And they're like, but that's not, how can you keep up with competition? And I'm like, I'm not trying to compete with anyone.
no,
I'm just trying to make something awesome and do something awesome and have an originality. Like
mhm,
people are like, well, there are other I have like 4 or 5
yeah,
podcasts and because I like talking about stuff,
exactly.
like it's okay. And like, they're like, well, what if other financial podcasts do this or that? And I was like, dude, I'm gonna enjoy listening to it.
Great,
It's
yeah,
okay. Great. And then maybe if I like a segment, I can go, dude, I can do something like that too. I think we exist in this world where everyone is super capitalistic and focusing on hyper scarcity.
yeah,
But you know what? There are enough. One of the things that I found out in business is that there are the perfect customers for me out there.
yes,
And you just have to figure out how to reach them and understand them and figure out where are they at and what do they want. And, it's not fully if you build it, they will come, but you
no.
gotta still figure out what you're building,
You
you
have
know?
to figure out what you're building and who you're catering to at the same time that, like, I mean, for us, we're 1,000 cases. Like, we are
That's right.
very small, and it's not to say I would love to tell you very firmly that we sell out every year. It's no. We're doing better than most, but we still have, 2022 vintage available. So it's like, make something that you truly feel passionate about and enjoy. Make it for you, and for sure, there's gonna be at least 1,000 people on the planet that are going to agree with you and think that, that one thing is special and unique and worth merit and worth spending money on, and great. And, for us, like, this is a family project, so we're
Yeah.
beholden to no one,
Yep.
and, kind of get to be the masters of our own ship, and and chart a course for wherever we want to
Mhm.
go. And so long as, as long as my parents have, enough to live on, and me and my family have enough to live on, that's great. If we could get to Europe,
That's it.
a couple times a year, huzzah! Like it's that's a great life. Like, we don't need much more than that, and, like you were talking about with the competition, and it's like, yeah, of course there's competition out there, and great. This is wine is a product, for lack of a better term, that is subjective, and, if you like it, you like it, and if you don't like it, you don't like it, and so it kind of comes and goes in terms of favor, with people, but it's then all the more reason to, like, don't focus on your competition. Make something that you truly enjoy and do it well enough and small enough that enough people will also enjoy it and then make you your living. So that's kind of our
I love that.
mentality, I guess.
Well, it's a great mentality to have,
Yeah,
honestly, because,
it's very
you know,
refreshing.
I'm with you in a very similar way with my podcasts. I have conversations that are as centric and weird as I am, and that there are things that just, you know what? I find that people enjoy listening to them.
Mhm.
I don't fully always know why, but I figure, like, people seek out and they have a love for things that they love, and sometimes they don't even know what that
Oh,
is.
for
And if
sure.
you can go out and make something great, it's awesome. Now, but, one of the challenges is whether it's podcasting content or wine, sometimes people don't know anything about it,
Yeah.
and so, like, someone is coming into the wine world because, I got lucky, that my parents decided when I was in high school, "Hey, we're gonna move to this place to work in this area, this region. It's called the Napa Valley." And I was just like, "Oh, cool. I don't know anything about that." And then so I got to grow up because, like, otherwise, dude, I would know nothing about wines. It was simply about proximity.
Yes.
It was simply I was like, "I'm here, and I am surrounded by all these people that are in the wine industry, and I don't know anything about it, but, this guy, his dad makes this wine, this girl, her mom makes this wine, and I'm around it." But, I didn't know anything about it, and it was intimidating to tell people, "Hey, I don't know what you're talking about," you know? Like, for me, the longest time, I didn't realize that different names of wines was just like a different variety, like
Yeah.
different grape
Right?
types,
Exactly.
And it's
Yeah. It's
but how do you when someone says, "I don't know anything about wine," what do you talk to them about,
I mean, when I talk to people that don't know much about wine, and which, by the way, is most people. I mean,
Right?
I feel like growing up in the Napa Valley or just being in this industry period, like it's so incestuous in a way of like
Super,
we all
super.
are in this same camp of like, oh well, you know that, like we forget sometimes that the majority of people have no clue about the fact that even the words winery and vineyard mean two radically different things.
Yep.
So we don't have we're opening our first ever tasting room 17 years into this business this year. And for the longest time we would do vineyard tours, and it was so hard to explain to people who are intelligent people that you're not going to you're literally going to the middle of nowhere, and we're going to go hang out in a field for a while. Like just that conversation of like, we're going to go hang out in a vineyard. It's not a winery. There's no barrels. There's no building. It's literally a field. That conversation was a little bit difficult. Now we have enough people that like we've been able to explain that. But when someone comes to me and says, "I don't know anything about wine," my first reaction is, "Great. Okay, good."
Yeah,
Because now I get the opportunity to talk to you, um, and bring you into this world, where
yeah,
it can be so intimidating, as you were saying. Like, wine is an
yeah,
intimidating thing because of how it's been produced and structured, and that, like, no soup for you mentality. of scarcity.
Great
It's
reference.
totally no soup for you. Like, all of the, like, culty guys are like, "No, we're sold out." Meanwhile, they have back vintages going back, like, a decade. It's like, come
Yeah.
on. So, that whole mentality is so intimidating, and it makes you so scared of this thing that at the end of the day is something that you consume and enjoy with friends and family. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to people that don't know anything about wine because we're growing Rhône varieties. So we make a Syrah Viognier co-ferment, which already is like trying to pronounce Viognier when it's, Viognier, right? That's how it's
Yeah.
spelled. It's like it's already a little much for people, and that's the main wine that we make. So we do that. We do a Grenache. We make a single variety Viognier. We make a Rhone style blend that's every variety we have on property, which includes, Cinsault, Grenache, Syrah, Viognier. Will include Grenache Blanc, Bourbon, and Mourvèdre when those varieties come online for us here in another couple of years. Um, in like a Clos de Pop, Chateauneuf de Pape kind of way. So it's trying to get outside of the box of we have a Cabernet and we have a Chardonnay because that's what most
Mhm.
people are familiar with. Maybe they've heard
Yeah.
of Merlot because of Sideways or whatever, but they don't actually know that most Bordeaux wines are Merlot based, like all of that kind of stuff. So you get to instruct people. And our goal, my personal goal as a brand is to kind of counterbalance that, for lack of a better term, sort of boomer mentality, if I may, of that no soup for you and it's not available and this is so exclusive and all of that. And
Yeah.
to make something that's high-end accessible. Like,
I love that.
yeah,
I love that. High-end accessible is an awesome,
it should be the
awesome.
way. There's a really good Burberry marketing campaign right now that has Olivia Colman in it. And if you haven't seen it, like, look it up on YouTube, it's glorious. It's Olivia Colman, the actress, and she's working in a chip shop in the UK, and she's serving up fish and chips to people, and every single person that comes in is, like, head to toe Burberry. And it's that idea of, like, luxury should be for every day.
Yes.
It's uh, this life is so short. It's a
Yep.
Tuesday, open that $100 bottle of wine and really enjoy it, instead of stashing it away in your cellar for a decade where, it might be too late when you open it. And now you've made that
Yeah.
investment of money and time, and then it's gone and you don't get to,
Yeah.
really enjoy it. And it's like, open it on a Tuesday.
I had, couple things to unpack there. All of them are awesome. Uh, I I I love dressing up
Yes.
every day.
Yes.
I love dressing nice when I go out. I had someone and it was interesting because I had a meeting with some of my clients that are from a region of the US that I love them to pieces, mountain states type area,
Yeah.
and they just don't get dressed up, North Face or Patagonia is kinda like the go-to thing,
Yeah.
and I was wearing a vest and some slacks and a button down and a tie,
Mhm.
and they're like, "You look like a waiter." And I was like for a second, I was like, "Why would they think I look like a waiter?" And it just clicked to me that the only people that they're seeing wear a vest and a tie are
Yeah.
waiters. And I was just like, "Wow, that's an interesting association," versus for me, I was like I grew up with a British grandfather
Mm.
who I never saw him outside of a
A
three-piece
full
suit,
suit, absolutely. Yeah.
a full suit. He would dress up, every single day, and it was powerful to me because, I think that there's something to be said for that everyday luxury, everyday accessible luxury because, when we can everyone likes to feel a little bit special, and I mean and that's what who really crushed it for that was all of the makeup brands that
Mm.
got on board with all these TikTokers,
Yeah.
and YouTubers early on and said, "Hey, you know what? there doesn't need to be a celebration to look and feel confident. There
Mhm.
doesn't need to be a celebration to go out, and that's one of the things too, like, I remember when in university, my dad's British and my mom's American, and when I was in university, we went over to, the UK for a semester. I had a semester abroad, and I got to go, and one of the things that popped up for me was the difference between bars and pubs,
Ah,
and
yeah.
a bar in America is something that you do occasionally. You go out with your friends and people get really drunk.
Mhm.
And, bars, you go in and you ask for food. Bar food
It's
sucks. Like,
horrible.
I've
Yeah.
not, it's horrible. There are a few bars that I've gone into and go, My God, this was a great meal.
Yes.
But pubs are an experience.
Mhm.
And you go to a British pub and they've got food. The thing that I found out that's absolutely mind blowing was that the curries were really good at
At
pubs as well
pubs.
because they
Yeah.
had at the
Yeah.
pubs, the curries, I was just like, "Why do they have curry here? That's so phenomenal." But it was great, and when I went to the pubs, like, they would go to the pub daily for food,
Mhm.
for a pint that was just not like "We're not gonna go get blackout drunk. We're gonna go in here and have a pint and just relax and enjoy this meal and this whole overall experience." It was every day, but
Mhm.
yet the pubs were classy and beautiful,
Yeah.
and they looked it was this different type of daily experience where, people were coming in and engaging it in a way that wasn't like this one-off, It was a lifestyle.
Yeah, and lifestyle is I think that is the right word to use there because it's like it's when we have, like, one-off experiences or something that it's like, "Oh, you're gonna go to this, Michelin star restaurant," or whatever it is, I'm just using that as an example. You build it up so much in your
Yep.
head, and at least in my experience, a lot of the times, you're kind of let down because of your own buildup. It's like,
Yep.
"This is a once in a lifetime. I'm never gonna be able to do this again. I'm gonna get, all of these things. I'm so excited and blah, blah, blah." And then it's like you're there and you're like, "This is it." As opposed
Yep.
to, having something on a daily or a weekly basis where you're like, "No, this is my local. Like, this is I know I'm gonna see friends here. I know I'm gonna get a great curry. I know I'm gonna, have a
Mhm.
great chat with the barman, and that's my life. It's not a one-off experiences, and those types of moments are so important because
I
that's life.
100%.
Yeah,
And one of the things is that we have to normalize this type of situation. Normalize good food.
yeah,
Normalize when I when I come back to the States, every time I bring my wife goes around the different food and places, and it's interesting because especially when we go and visit Napa, like, there's, like, either just basic food
mhm,
or there's fancy food,
mhm,
and the fancy food is unattainable.
yeah,
It's just so over the top, It's like these places and she looks at me and she's like, "Do people not eat well here?" Like, like, "What are people doing, man?" You go in and, like, and it was just like and I think that one of the things is, like, that's wild for me is when I go around we went to Bangkok recently, and so Ho Chi Minh City is the same. We don't have as many of the Michelin star places that are street food, but,
yeah,
like, when you go to Bangkok, half of the Michelin star places are literally everyday street food places that people have just are really, really good. And, like, now there's these huge lines, but it was like that mechanic shop back in the day,
yeah,
you know, that I was talking about that had the pho at night. Like, those were the types of places that are getting Michelin stars
mhm,
because it's everyday luxury.
yeah.
It's a commitment to everyday
Yeah,
excellence.
100%. And so much in Napa that way, I feel like has changed, is changing, will probably continue to change. I mean, when the institutions start going down, that there's, the writings on the wall. Like the Goose and Gander closing just breaks my heart. It just
Yeah.
that downstairs bar was the closest
Yep.
thing to a proper pub, right? Where it's like the food
Yes.
was incredible, the cocktails were killer. You could go there, if you were a local, like, know you could get a spot in the corner and just hang out, and the bartender knew your order, and it was like, yes, like, that closing just makes me really sad that, something that was, in your 20s, you could afford it. Like
Yep.
you're working your ass off, and you knew it was going to be open and you could go and you could get some incredible food and a great drink and be out of there for, $40 and great. I don't know many places that are like that today. But it's like
Right?
going into Napa now, because I have, people are going there for the first time. And something I think we forget, having like grown up there is that there's people that wait their entire lives that save paychecks
Yes.
up to spend 2 days in the Napa Valley, you know,
Mhm.
and and they don't know what to do, and they
Yes!
look at like they're like, okay, I guess I need to go to Behringer and I need to go to this place and I need to eat at the French Laundry. And it's like, yes,
No, do Junies,
you
man.
go to Junie's, go to Junie's. Go to Junie's and go to Azteca at 8 in the morning and
Yep.
walk in that grocery store
Yes.
and get your super burrito with all of the other people during harvest that have been awake since 10 p.m. and that's their
Yes.
dinner. Like it's
Yep.
there are those experiences, and knowing that going in, I always tell people, it's like, okay, what kind of experience of Napa Valley do you want to have? Do you want to
Yeah.
go to the wineries that, you know, you're gonna have this, like, super fancy experience, but you're gonna walk out of there and maybe not have wanted to buy the wine? Or are you gonna go to a really small place where the proprietor is still the one that's doing your tasting, and
100%.
you get to have an experience of, tasting through barrels with the person that made the wine and, walk out of there a
Yep.
club member? Like, what level of
Right.
experience do you wanna have? And do you wanna spend a ton of money eating, or do you wanna go to Buster's Barbecue for lunch and, have, just an incredible experience? So, yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
Buster's mentioned in any wine conversation is a good thing.
Buster's is so good. I miss that barbecue. I miss driving through Calistoga and just rolling down your window and just smelling it through the air.
Right? Yeah. We went last trip back, my wife was complaining again about the food. She's like, "What is wrong with people?" And I was like, "Alright, hold on."
Yes.
We got some Buster's and she's like,
Okay.
"You have redeemed
Yeah.
yourself. You've redeemed yourself." Consider this okay.
Yeah.
But I wanna dive into your wine. If I open one of your Syrah or Viognier, what should I notice first? What do you like to really build out in your flavors and your smell, taste, all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if people are unfamiliar with the Rocks District as an appellation, it is it's the only AVA in the world whose boundary is based on soil type. So um there's I think it's 5.3 square miles. It's a very, very small area. Um and the cobbles and gravels that make up the riverbed, it sits on alluvial fan, and so those cobbles and gravels go down like hundreds of feet. Different than Châteauneuf-du-Pape, where in La Croix, where those cobblestones are, it only goes down like a meter, and then it hits like a clay hard pan, and so it's a different growing environment. Um, our rocks are also volcanic in nature, so they're basalt based, so very, very young geologically speaking, whereas again in Chateauneuf, those rocks come from the Alps. So they're granitic. They're much, much older, and all of the nutrients and all of the little, things that make up those stones are essentially gone. Um, Ours are very present. They're still decomposing. So very nutrient dense soil, which makes for really different wines. People talk about this minerality, for lack of a better term, but it's literally salt. It's a saline quality on your palate, which equates to that like umami MSG feeling almost. That it's very coating of your palate. Um and it lingers. It can be gamey, but depending on the variety, the Grenaches out of here are extremely fruit forward. Um, there is a garrigue character, which is a very fancy term for, like, sage and herbs de Provence, right? So, but that is a pretty good definition of what's in there. The white wines from here are super, super fascinating because they maintain that salinity, that salty characteristic, which equate it comes off on your palate as like sea breeze. Like when you're at the beach and you get that just like wash of that spray in your face. It's like that, but then in Rhône varieties specifically, like Viognier, there's that apricot, peach, dynamic to it as well. So it's a really fascinating area. And once you've had a wine from the rocks, especially a Syrah, which is so indicative of where it's grown, you'll be able to pinpoint it, across tables for the rest of your life. It really kind of hits you in the face that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things too is like there are different. I love to hear that you're growing these Rhone varietals because again, like people get to know, like I know this. It's like Cab and Chard, and it's like there's this like the world. The world is a large world beyond just these
Yeah.
varietals that have become. And I think one of the challenges too is like people have seen, oh, wow, that company made a lot of money on their cab. Well, we need to copy that cab. And so then everyone starts growing cab,
Yeah.
not because they love cab, but because they're looking at the financials of it all.
Mhm.
And I mean, granted, there's some phenomenal cabs out there, but
Mhm.
it's not the only reason to grow something. And like, I feel like that leads to a larger thing in the whole wine industry. And, this is just from an outsider's perspective, but to see how there's this real big thing of like, you were like so right. It is so incestuous at some point.
Oh,
This
yeah.
little clique,
Yeah.
it is like, and I mean, it's really funny that everyone just sits around doing these things. Like, I mean, wine people think that they're much more evolved and special, but dude, I liken it to like a group of people sitting there in their basement playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they're all using their specialized vocabulary.
Oh my God,
Like, well,
100%. Yes.
like, you're all sitting there. Everyone's dressed up in these special clothes, going like, "My wizard is attacking your mage," for 5 hit points, and the
Yeah.
guy's like swirling his wine over here,
Right.
going,
Right.
the hints of this and that, and it's like, dude, you guys are literally, you've simply transitioned from D&D to wine,
Yeah.
and if you had have simply combined them,
Yeah.
it would have been way more cool.
It's
Like,
so
keep
much
playing your
cooler.
D&D. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so, like, there's this idea of, like, a right and a wrong way to taste wine, and I'm looking at that Russian River, like,
Yeah.
bottle behind you. I remember, like, when I was in college, we were drinking wine out of that, like,
Yes.
bottles like that,
Mhm.
and we were the sacrilege. We just would have these giant bottles that one of my buddies was like, "I made this myself, and it's in here," and we were passing that bottle around, and like, and then someone else, one of our other friends was like, that's just not the right way to drink it. I'm like pulling out my mason jar going, say what?
'Kay. Yeah. But I'm enjoying
um,
it, so yeah.
yeah.
It is funny that way.
Is there a right and wrong way or is it just the way?
I think that I think depending on your there's so many different levels, I feel like. So it's like
I
even
love that.
even as a winemaker, I I cannot I cannot bring myself to go through the WSET program. I sat in it with friends who were like, going through level 3, level 4, and they put tasting groups together and they were like, "Hey, I have to buy these benchmark bottles. Do you guys want to come in and like let's do it all together?" And I don't want every time I sit down to enjoy a glass of wine, go, the brilliance level is this, like the color is this, the nose is this, the palate is this, and I give it a blah. Like I still want to have that moment of swirling your glass, putting your nose in it, and going, "Oh, that's incredible," or "That's, horrible," or "That's, interesting."
What the hell is
Don't wanna
that? You
drink
know?
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many levels. So, for me, I think that you can like academia, you can take it to the nth degree. You can become a
Yes.
doctorate. You can go all the way down the line and go, "I can tell you after 1 sip where this wine came from, what vineyard it was, the year, climate that year, all of that." And those people are phenomenal. I'm lucky enough to know a couple of masters of wine, and it is truly remarkable to watch them taste. However, on a daily basis, no, I'd be so much more happy, having my Tablas Creek rosé out of the box in my mason jar, right? That's a way more enjoyable experience for me on a daily basis than sitting there and over analyzing something that you're supposed to enjoy. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yesterday, I had some kimchi,
mm,
and, we have this great Korean barbecue restaurant up the street, and dude, it's so legit.
yeah.
It is so amazingly good, and, like, they bring out all of these different types of kimchi, and, like, there's, and stuff I didn't know existed. There's your standard cabbage kimchi.
Mhm.
They've got um like a chive kimchi that's made
Ooh.
from
Oh,
chives,
that'd be
and,
good.
like, it's just the tops of the chives and the base of the chives. They've got, all of these other ones. One of the ones that's really good is they've got a special, like, the shoots of garlic kimchi,
Yeah.
and
Oh, that would be
and so it's like
wonderful.
garlic shoot kimchi. It's delicious, right?
Yeah.
But I enjoy kimchi, and there's certain flavors and there's certain things, but yesterday I got some store-bought kimchi, and I was sitting down with my meal, and I was gonna have it, and I just took a bite, and I was like, "That shit has turned."
Ah,
And it was like
yeah.
I was just like, "Wow." And,
I haven't
if I wanted to analyze the flavors, there was a bitterness to
mm,
it. It had this aftertaste.
mm,
There's lots of ways that I could describe it, but, like, at the end of the day, I just knew it
yeah,
turned. And I don't have to describe it. I don't have to sit there and lean into the
yeah.
flavors. I don't have to sit there, and just the same way that I can tell you that chive kimchi has a bunch of flavors and it's awesome. To me, I mean, maybe if I was like a culinary expert or chef, or I was writing in restaurant reviews and stuff like that, it might be necessary.
Yeah.
But I think one of the problems that we've associated now is that we think that the opinions of those people that write those things
Ooh.
is what all of us should be talking about and talking like. And the reality is that no, you just need to be able to sit there and say, dude, that kimchi, it's legit.
Mhm.
And that's an okay
That's
review.
a great
You don't have to
review.
sit there and go, hang on, this guy who talked and had all these layers of talking about all these things, that's how I need to talk. No, you
No,
don't need
no.
to. It's great that they
Yeah.
can, and we can all learn from them, but you don't have to talk that way
No.
too.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I Jeb Dunnick has said this before where he's like, "Look it, my reviews are my personal opinion on this
Yes.
one wine that I'm trying on this one day in this one place." Period. Like, it's that, and that should be the mentality that the consumers of products go into it with, of this is one person's opinion of a very knowledgeable person. That's just one opinion of what this is. I might have a totally different opinion. This is just like a baseline for what it is. And I think that we've we've put too much credit in a way in the hands of consumers. um and kind of put it on them and their lack of knowledge to go, "Oh, no, this is the only opinion." Or, if something
Yeah.
scores a 91, which if it scored a 91 in the 70s, would have been like, "Oh, this is like an incredible, this is out of this world kind of a wine." A 91 today is like, "Okay." It's like,
Yeah.
that's an A, guys, like, that's an A wine." And
Yeah.
and so many people are kind of living in that unless it's 95 or above, from these 3 or 4 people, it doesn't matter. And it's like,
Yeah.
all of those critics would tell you, it's my opinion on this day of tasting this one wine.
One 2 things that you pop into mind or remind me of. Number 1 is Rotten Tomatoes,
Mm,
and, like, how often on there the critics,
yeah.
reviews are very, very, very different from the audience meter.
Mhm.
The audience meter, like, "Dude, this is awesome. This was a great movie." And you go and read through there versus the critics going, "I didn't like how they did this." And it's like, yeah,
Okay.
of course you didn't. You don't like anything, you know?
Exactly.
But one of the things too is, like, also that time and place, it's like you might be
Mhm.
in a different spot, and, like, you might not be feeling it that day, and it has nothing to do with the wine, it just could be where you're at,
For
and
sure.
it's like time and place is a big thing. One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, like, though, for people that are getting into this, how what do things a Syrah,
Mm.
what do you think in your opinion, what does a Syrah usually taste like for someone drinking it for the first time?
Oh, Sean, that is a really hard question. So
Mm,
Syrah, like Pinot Noir, right, is so
yeah,
indicative of where it's grown
I
that,
love that.
a Burgundian wine tastes very different than a Willamette Valley, tastes very different than a Sonoma Coast, tastes very different,
Yeah.
da 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 da. Same variety. So Syrah has had, you know, um, not as good of a PR firm as
Yeah.
uh, and there's Yellowtail Syrah and there's Chateauneuf, or there's
Yeah.
Hermitage, or there's, Paso Robles, or it's so different based on where you are. So I know for a fact that growing where we do in the Northwest, by virtue of our location on the planet and the weather that we receive, we will never be able to produce the alcohol level, let alone the powerhouse that is Paso Robles strong. We're never going to be able to be Saxum. We're never going to be able to be, Albany. We cannot do it because of where we are growing. That's not to say that we don't receive similar scores. That's not to say that, the wine is worse. It's just different. So to me, Syrah in its, sort of purest form has that sagey character. It's pancetta, right? It's
Yeah.
that fat plus slight bit of game plus herbs. Um, so that's what it is to me in those sort of Northern Rhone, benchmarks.
Yeah.
Um, but it
But if
does.
someone yeah, if someone comes to your winery, vineyard, and says different things, I know, they wanna try one of your
Yeah,
wines. They come to you, they wanna try one of your what wine do you say,
this is the
"Taste
one.
this?"
Um,
Yeah.
Currently, it's
Mm.
we make a wine that is a blend of every variety that we have on property. So, that is our ode to Chateauneuf du Pape in the way that they are able to blend, all of the, 13 to 16 approved varieties seamlessly. So, Beaucastel, right? Just that level of intensity and smoothness and fruit and power and herbs and spiciness and all of that kind of combines into one, and you have smaller percentages of things for sure, but like that's the one. So we started making that wine, which is called BDR, Brooke Delmas Robertson.
Mm.
So I got
Mhm.
got got my name on it. Um, and it had been a goal of mine to produce something like that from the inception of our vineyard. So we needed to get some vine age there, especially on the Grenache, for it to start doing things correctly. We're still not totally there yet. All of our reds on property are head trained as well. So in that, Goblet style. Um, so that took some time to really figure out that like that is the for our site in our region and what we're trying to produce the correct way
Mm,
to grow our fruit. Um, and the first time that we were able to make that wine was 2022, which was a weird vintage up here. It snowed in April. There was a lot of snow and rain over the winter time. We had one of the hottest Junes on record, and then the summer was just like no real heat units. Normally in Walla Walla, we get, summers that at least hit like 115 at least once. And I don't think it broke
mm,
100 that year. September was really cool. So a lot of hang time. Things just didn't really progress ripeness wise. Flavor wise, were beautiful, but just a very different vintage than kind of what we're used to because we have extremes on either side and we just didn't see them. So I really like the blend because it truly represents everything that SJR Vineyard produces in a given year. So from vintage to
mm,
vintage, the percentages of those varieties change, but it's always the same wine. So, and it's, no different than Chateauneuf and how they operate. They don't make their wine by a recipe. Um, and it's with climate change continuing to march on, it's
yeah.
we can either be dogmatic and go, I'm going to make a Syrah every year because that's what I do. Or, we can look at the property as a whole and go, well, this did really well and this wasn't quite as great. But what if we put it all together and it's going to show what that vintage did. So, um, the 2022 is 57% Syrah, 40% Grenache with a little bit of Cinsault and Viognier. And then the
Mm,
23 is it's like 82% Syrah, 14% Grenache, and then, a little bit of the other ones. Um, and then it'll kind of change going forward, especially as we have the other varieties that come on, which will be Mourvèdre, Grenache Blanc, and Bourboulon, which is really exciting. So,
that's awesome.
yeah.
Where can people find out more about you and the wine that you make?
A lot of what we do is direct to consumer. So we have a website. It's delmaswines.com. Um, we we ship wines twice a year, but our wines are available online right now. We have a very limited amount of Viognier and Grenache that we do, mostly because we just have 1 acre of each of those in production currently. That is changing, but right now it's a very small amount. So we do about 100 cases of each of those. We make a Syrah Viognier co-ferment. We also do 100% Syrah wine that's in Magnum only, which is pretty cool. And we're opening our first ever tasting room downtown Walla Walla in February of 2026. So you can come see us there. And yeah, those are our spots.